Yes, yes, yes. What is up? What is up? MCR family. Another weekly edition of the show live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Should be a fun one today. Because within like 48 hours, we had Canelo Plant like almost official to it being dead in the waters. Can't wait to dive into our theories, because I have theories as to why it is now dead in the waters. I got my tinfoil hat on. Don't worry, guys. It's going to get fun. Plus, obviously, we had a decent heavyweight scrap in the main event, obviously, with Queensberry Promotions, Frank Warren, last Saturday with Joyce Carlos Takam. And it was a decent fight, for what it was. I know Gary's a little bit hyped on the stoppage and it being early or not. I know him and Rob were going back and forth in the group chat. I woke up and there was like 60 plus messages in the group chat. It was just them going back and forth. It was great. I loved it. And what else do we have to get into today? Ryan Garcia, Jojo Diaz. I believe we haven't talked about that, right? I don't think we've done a show since that was semi-announced as a potential fight.
Yeah.
So I cannot wait to dive into that fight because I do think it's a real quality matchup with some interesting, sort of divisional ramifications. But without further ado, let me get to my wonderful co-host, the one and only Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm going to actually have some interesting thoughts that you might not expect on the stoppage in the Takam fight. And look, Plant Canelo is going to happen. I'm 100% confident it's going to happen. So, look, I know it hit a snag. That's a negotiating tactic. It's going to happen. Canelo wants to fight. And Plant... Well, we'll get into it later, but I'm 100% confident it's going to happen.
100% confident.
100%.
Let's get into the Canelo topic first, because obviously that's like it's Canelo. I mean, he's one of the biggest names in the sport. Lance Pugmire was the first report over on, I think it was what, Friday or Saturday? I forget the exact date. July 25th. What is that? Was that yesterday?
Yeah. 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Yeah.
Official. Quote, only small details, unquote, remain before Canelo plan is finalized for September 18th on Fox at MGM Grand. Also, I'm very curious about not Fox pay-per-view. I wonder if that was just a mistake, right, from Lance Pugmire, because it just said on Fox. So that would lead me to assume a just Fox TV main event, which is highly unlikely. So I'm assuming it's a mistake. All obviously for 168-pound titles will be on the line, blah, blah. But that was refuted by his former colleague, Mike Coppinger, saying Canelo Alvarez, Caleb Plant, boxing fight talks broken off, sources say. And he even said in his tweet about it that it was dead in the waters in terms of the negotiations. So, Gary, you said it's still happening. So you think this is just a negotiation tactic? What leads you to that assumption?
Because Canelo wants to be undisputed, so he wants to fight. Like, Canelo's going to get paid no matter who he fights, right? Mm-hmm. Canelo's going to get paid. Plant or Bivol, I don't know. One's really not bigger than the other. Perhaps Plant's slightly bigger because he's got the bigger promotional network behind him. It's for undisputed. Maybe it's slightly bigger than a Bivol fight. I don't know. But
I would say so just because you have like the back end of like Fox and PBC, right?
Right.
It was like Bivol, like that would just be like a DAZN main event where Canelo's like sort of like really doing most of the groundwork and such for terms of building and drawing for that fight. With Caleb Plant, at least he's been on like really successful Fox cars that did decent numbers. He's been in the circuit a little bit more, and plus again he has the full backing of an entire network like Fox, which is drastically bigger than DAZN. Right. I'll be honest, Gary. I haven't given it too much thought about this, but I've given it a little bit of thought. So let me know if I'm too crazy with this theory. It's not really a theory, it's just more me being pessimistic. In the preceding weeks before it was like sort of announced as almost done, we had Eddie Hearn saying over and over again that no, like we can probably fight Triple G instead, or Andrade, or other guys within his stable in the DAZN umbrella as well. I think for one, that stopped at some point as well. And I think Canelo probably had a discussion with Eddie Hearn about, hey, I don't want to fight Triple G. And I think regardless of that talk, because Eddie Hearn did stop going to headlines and media sources talking about Triple G being an option instead of Caleb Plant, instead of the 2-fight deal for PBC, which he didn't like. I think there was not a on purpose malicious intent by Eddie Hearn and DAZN in terms of this negotiation process to sort of undermine it, especially when the 2-fight deal was talked about. But I do believe that they are focusing and trying to prioritize their stable, their fighters, and trying to get Canelo back on DAZN ASAP. I think the 2-fight deal is a threat to them doing, Canelo Triple G, Canelo Andrade, Canelo versus whoever, Munguia, whoever it may be, on the DAZN umbrella. I do believe in some fashion that, again, DAZN and Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, are not really focusing on the negotiation with Caleb Plant and PBC like they should, because, again, they are prioritizing their own stable. Gary, am I being too tinfoil hat, too pessimistic about the people involved here in the negotiation?
No, if this was any fighter but Canelo, I'd say you're right. Like LRB and Floyd Mayweather said they're not going to fight outside of the PBC stable for Tank Davis, right? But this is Canelo. Like, Canelo's bigger than the promotion. Like, Tank Davis isn't bigger than PBC. Canelo's bigger than DAZN. Canelo can do whatever he wants, right?
Yeah.
So I would say normally what you said makes a lot of sense, right? In this new paradigm where the fighter works for the promoter. The fighter puts his life on the line so he can make the promoter a big fat check, as opposed to the opposite, where the promoter would work for the fighter and get the fighter what he wants. This is a new paradigm now. The fight's going to happen, Team Batman. Look, if it doesn't happen, Caleb Plant, someone better get sued over at PBC, because this is a once-in-a-lifetime happen. Charlo, same stable, has been waiting 5 years for this, right? Andre's been waiting 5 years at least for this. If you think Caleb Plant is going to walk away from this, or if you think PBC is going to if Caleb Plant wins, he's a crossover mega superstar. He just beat Canelo, right? He's a star, period. And if you think they're going to let that kind of star power walk, you're crazy. If they do, they have to be sued for negligence, 100%.
Why is it PBC and Fox for negligence and not DAZN and Matchroom?
Well, because Canelo's in the driver's seat. Canelo calls the shots. Canelo called you, right? So Now answer the phone, right? Canelo's going to get the same payday no matter who he fights. If he fights before, he's going to get roughly the same payday. If Caleb Plant doesn't take Canelo fight, he takes any other fight on the PBC stable, and Benavidez isn't even available, so the next best fight's not even available, who's he going to fight? Anthony Durrell? Come on. You know what I'm saying? You're going from a $10 million payday to a $1.5 million payday. And now you haven't even got to the upside where if you win, if you beat Canelo, you're the biggest star in the sport.
What do you think is the actual contractual holdup here? It's just money.
They want a multi-fight deal, and Canelo's not going to give a multi-fight deal because he wants.
Do you think it's Canelo that doesn't want to give it? Because, I mean, he did a 2-fight deal with DAZN after he separated from DAZN. After he went through an entire process with Golden Boy and DAZN, he was like, you know what? I'm going to do another 2-fight deal with DAZN.
Yeah, no, that was fascinating.
I mean, why wouldn't he do a 2-fight deal with PBC? Because he's talked about all the PBC names that he's want to fight. Like when Eddie Reneso talks about who he wants Canelo to fight next, it's not Andrade and Triple G. The first names he mentions is Plant and Benavidez and Charlo. Right? So you would have to do a 2-fight deal in that theory if you want those guys. So
Andre just wants payday anyway. He just wants payday.
Everyone wants payday because it's Canelo payday, regardless, right? But in terms of what Canelo has said he wanted, and you said what you said is right, that Canelo is in the driver's seat. Canelo is bigger than what PBC has. Or except for maybe Pacquiao and the Spence fight, that's massive. Canelo as a single fighter is bigger than any individual fighter that these other teams have, these other sort of conglomerates have. So you're right that he's in the driver's seat, especially in this negotiation with Caleb Plant or whoever in this sort of spectrum, because he's so much bigger than they are. Right? None of these guys are even close to his equal in terms of drawing power. So I would probably be inclined to believe it when he says, I want to fight these guys that he's that he's honest about that those are the guys he wants to fight. Canelo has a history of saying, I want to fight these guys, and then he goes and fights those guys. So in my mind, the idea of like Canelo is balking at a 2-fight deal, that doesn't make sense to me. He just signed a 2-fight deal with a network he just got to have a contract with. Why wouldn't he do a 2-fight deal with the conglomerate that are going to give him the fighters that he wants to fight next, that his team wants him to fight next? Understand?
Right. Again, and you're asking me to speculate on something I have really.
We're all speculating here. Yes, of course.
Maybe he doesn't like the payout of the second option, right? Like maybe it's something like that. The second fight, no, I want a bigger cut than that. I want a bigger back end. It could be something like that. Would still meet, because if Caleb Plant wins, what's the second fight of that? It's a rematch. Okay, perfect. We get Canelo and Caleb Plant again after Plant beats him. If Canelo wins, then it's Benavidez on Cinco de Mayo. Great, let's do that. That's amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it will happen because it makes too much sense for it not to happen. It'll happen. Like,
I'll be honest. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think, Gary, you're largely right that this is just like kind of a tactic or just a hiccup. Like, it's not really dead. I think this fight's going to happen in September. He's talked about it too much for it not to happen, right? We've gotten this far in the negotiation for it not to happen, in my opinion. So Plant happens next. He washes Plant. Like bad.
But Plant wins, so
it doesn't happen that way.
All right, let's go in that realm where he doesn't win.
Yeah, playing my realm for a second. Okay?
The realm of reality.
Canelo's been sort of on track for taking a December fight, right? Taking sort of like a mid tune-up. That's not really a tune-up, right? Like Callum Smith was that, right? That was a December fight.
It was regarded as the best 168-pounder in the world at that time, but I guess that's a tune-up,
right? Because Rocky Fielding was also around that time. Wasn't Rocky Fielding like in November?
The first week of December, I think.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, Canelo sort of had a routine now of a few years of having a December fight and not just having 2 fights a year. So I'm thinking he fights Jamal Charlo, obviously to be specific, in December fall time, and then Benavidez on Cinco de Mayo, and then washes the PBC stable, and then goes back to maybe the Zone or Top Rank or wherever has a guy that he is interested in.
Look, he could fight 4 times a year. It would just be unprecedented in this kind of era with the biggest name in the sport fights 4 times in a year. Like we have. I'm not saying you can't have it. I'm just saying like he's going to get another, I don't know, $30 million payday. And does he really want to come back again and fight 3 months, 2.5, 10, 12 weeks later? I don't know. I mean, maybe, but don't you want to enjoy the fruit of your labor, the spoil of your riches? I'm saying he might do it. I don't know, but it seems like 3 times would be enough. Like most people fight twice. Now with the pandemic, they're fighting once. He's going to fight 4, maybe, but it seems like a lot.
Gary, potato base in the chat. What's a potato base? Apparently there's a new Mike Coppinger piece because he said it was posted 5 minutes ago that says there's quotes from Caleb Plant. Do you want to talk for a minute as I find that, if that's okay, Gary?
Yeah.
Because if Caleb Plant has some quotes concerning this, then maybe it's more. It will clarify some issues.
It's like the head cheerleader saying, I want to go out with this guy right here. And the guy's like, well, I have some. No, you don't. Just say yes. Just do it. You're never going to get this opportunity again, right? Like I said, Charles has been waiting 5 years for this. Andre, who's on the same side of the street as him, has been waiting for 5 years to get this fight. I'm not saying you fell into it because you won a title, but you happen to have won a title in the same weight class that Canelo wants to unify, and you're the last champ standing. He wants to fight you because he wants all those straps. So, again, get the best deal you can, but don't lose this fight altogether because now your $10 million payday is going to be $1.5 million to fight Anthony Durrell. Like, think about that. You're going to lose 85% of your purse to fight anybody else. And Benavidez isn't even available, so you're not fighting Benavidez next. So, you're really going down David Morrell. I don't know if they want to do that with Morrell yet. I don't know if he's ready, but he's really good.
Gary, you want the Caleb Plant quote now?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, he's coming with some heat, Gary. You might like it because obviously you're a big Caleb Plant fan. Even I am too. But I mean, he's fighting Canelo. We all know which way I'm going to side here. It's Canelo all day. Canelo team. Come on, till we die. But he said, "Quote this from Caleb Plant telling ESPN's my commentator. Quote: His bark is bigger than his bite. Canelo was offered the highest guarantee of his career. He was set to make $40 million plus Mexican TV rights and a Tennessee sponsorship. No problem, let's fight. We gave it to him. Then they won the upside of gate and pay-per-view revenue. No problem, let's rumble. It was always agreed that it was a title unification, no rematch for either fighter. Towards the end of negotiation, they asked for a rematch when they lose. No problem. You can have the rematch as well. I just want to fight. Plant told ESPN he agreed to his side of the fight 2 weeks ago with no arguments about money or any stipulations. Besides the one-way rematch clause, it would only go into effect if Canelo lost. So there you go, one-way rematch clause for those that might want to ask about that, which Plant said he agreed to. There was also a matter of the ring size. Alvarez and Blazer Saunders battle over the distance of inside the ropes ahead of their May fight, which Alvarez won by 9th round, blah, blah, blah. Instead, in the end, Saunders got his wish by the ring. ANSAC calls for a standard 20-by-20 ring. Plant agreed to it. The Nashville native said the star fighter had other ridiculous requests. Quote. This quote, one that is absurd. If I get injured or sick, then he gets a late replacement for the same amount of guaranteed money. But if he gets sick or injured, then we got to wait for him. We're at 7.5 weeks from the fight. We've lost valuable time that should be spent promoting and drug testing for a fight of this magnitude. I question whether legacy or money is the real motive, or is their real motive. We've been waiting for him to get done with his wedding, shooting his TV show, his golf tournament. Now we have tried to give him everything he wants and more to make this fight. I'm more than willing, able, and ready to fight Canelo Alvarez on any date. Those are the real facts. If anyone has something to say differently, we have the paperwork to prove it. I don't think there's any other quote. Yeah, that's about it. That's the updated article. Gary, thoughts on your boy, man?
I understand why he wouldn't like that, but like, you guys don't understand. You're not in control here. If you get COVID and he can't fight, he's not pushing the fight back because he is the show, right? So he'll just take another opponent. And that's what they're talking about. If he gets injured or sick, if he gets COVID positive, that's what they're talking about. That he gets a replacement. If Canelo gets COVID, the fight's off because the show's over. Look, yes, every fight needs a B-side. You're the B-side. He's the show. If he gets sick, the show gets postponed because he's the show. Like, I understand that you may not like that. That may be a knock to your ego, but it's reality. Floyd Mayweather made every single concession to Oscar because you know why? Oscar was the A-side. Floyd went there and beat him and became the A-side. Do you want to be like Floyd? Do you want to be the A-side? Do you want to be in Canelo's seat or Floyd's seat where you can call out your opponent and do whatever you want and make these ridiculous demands on other people? Go beat Canelo because it's the only way you're going to get it.
Damn, I thought you were going to actually root for Caleb Plant there, and I was going to have to make that argument, but you kind of took my argument there, Gary. I agree with you 100%. Similar to like the Crawford, like Spence discussions we've had, right? Like at some
Spence
point,
has played himself. Crawford's played himself though. Come on, bud.
Because that whole issue is just the split of 60-40 versus 50-50, right? Like that's what it falls down to, and that's I think
it's all ego. It's all ego. He don't want to take the short money. That's all it's about.
Yeah. So now we're blaming Caleb Plant for this not happening, right? Because he doesn't want to accept what in your minds is a relatively respectful request or contract request by the Canelo team.
It's a reasonable request given the situation that he's the show. You're the Robin, right? If Batman can't make it, show's canceled. If Robin can't make it, we'll get a different Robin. I'm sorry, it sucks that COVID's going around, but like it is what it is. Like I'm not going to push this off because I can get someone else. You can't get this opportunity anywhere else. It's just me. It's not even like back in the day. Well, if you couldn't get Mayweather, maybe you could get Pacquiao. At this weight, it's only Canelo. That's it. Triple G is a far, far, far cry from where Canelo is.
Gary, do you see the bottom of the screen?
To nobody.
I mean, to William Cepeda for sure. Anyways, Gary, any other thoughts on Canelo Plant? I mean, do we still think it happens?
I think it happens. This is not going to hold the fight up, right? Like, look, Caleb Plant, I know that that's not what you want to hear, that if you get COVID to no fault of your own, the fight's off. But that's the reality of the matter. He gets to pick, right? It's like USC and Miami and Texas. They get to select the player they want, right? It's not even recruiting. It's like, I want you. You come here, right? Like, that's it. He picked you. But it comes with these circumstances. You're not in position to really, like, get the best deal you can. I said you should have started the money higher. You should have started with $15 million and come down. But you said you want the fight. If you want the fight, this is the stipulation that it comes with. Do you want the fight? Look, he still wants to be undisputed. If you get COVID and he fights David Morrell instead, he's still going to fight you next because you still have a belt.
David Morrell's not going to be the replacement.
I don't know. I was just coming up with a PBC guy in that weight class. It's not going to be Morrell. They're not going to put Morrell because Morrell's got real upside. They're not going to put him in Canelo 8 fights into his career or whatever it is.
I wonder who it would be though, right? Like, let's say it's like 4 weeks out.
Anthony Durrell.
But like they're not gonna like do like Charlo Benavidez, right? Like, because I bet Canelo wouldn't take that on 4 weeks' notice as a late notice replacement. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he would take that tough of a fight and switch up in terms of style, 4 weeks out. Like, let alone them not accepting it because it's only 4 weeks of camp. It would have to be somebody like an Anthony Durrell, which is not
Laura. Would Laura go up to 168 to take it?
Ooh,
Bet he would. Maybe do it at 164, 165, something like that.
I mean, Laura can probably move up to 168. I mean, come on. It's not like...
Yeah. No, I'm saying I think that would be the backup would be Laura.
I'll take a Laura, 2 fight.
Canelo wins at this point. I mean, Laura won 8, 9 years ago, whenever it was. But at this point,
he didn't win.
Yeah, Canelo would beat him. But it's still a fine fight.
Moving on from that, let's get to the other... from Eddie Renesso camp news. Ryan Garcia's comeback bout this fall could be against Joseph Diaz, sources say, according to Mike Compinger at ESPN. Gary, your thoughts on Ryan Garcia having a long layoff due to mental health issues that he has talked about, or not really talked about. I really haven't looked into it, to be honest. And him fighting Joseph Diaz, who looked really good against Javier Fortuna in his first fight at lightweight. My quick thoughts on it is that obviously Ryan Garcia should win this because I think his upside is massive. But Joseph Diaz is absolutely the type to either play upset and spoiler or just give him the toughest fight of his career. Like this is going to be a way tougher fight than Luke Campbell, in my opinion. Yeah,
I don't know if Ryan Garcia is ready for this because Campbell's not going to bring the fight to you, right? And maybe Diaz walks into the power. Maybe it's an easier fight. But I can't see it. Maybe he just walks into something big and Garcia gets him out. Where Campbell's more safety first technician, more cautious, more on the outside. But yeah, no. I like the idea of the fight. I like the concept of the fight. I like the contrast in styles. I like the explosiveness of Garcia against the pressure of Diaz. I like the fight. Here's my concern. I don't mean to throw any shade on Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia told the California State Athletic Commission, he's not in position to fight. I can't fight. I'm not mentally fit to fight. And I'm not blaming him. I'm not faulting him for that. That was what he said. If California is doing its due diligence, wouldn't they make him go through those tests again and kind of relicense him?
Well, obviously, since the fight's not like announced, maybe he does have to do that to some degree.
Okay.
But I mean, it's commissions, man. Like, even though
you're right about that, yeah.
I mean, like California has a better commission than like Texas, Florida, sort of like key commissions that are jokes like Alabama, like
just take the fight because it comes with money. It comes with a check. We'll take
yeah, exactly. There's still commissions with all of the intangible issues that we talk about when it comes to commissions. Same with New York; they have a lot of issues there that they've been trying to clean up. I think California under Andy Foster, that California Commission under Andy Foster as the executive director, has been decent, but they still have their issues. They've had plenty of scandals throughout his tenure. So, who knows? Unfortunately, in a better world, yes, Gary, absolutely, he would go through like a psych evaluation or something, right?
I would think so. He pulls himself out of the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, Okay, you're telling me you're not able to fight. Well, what makes you able to fight now? We kind of have to prove that you could get killed in this ring. I want to make sure you don't go Oliver McCall in there. I'm not saying you're gonna. I just have to do my due diligence.
Dude, can you imagine if he goes Oliver McCall in there?
But I'm saying that's obviously not doing, and that was 25, 30 years ago. Now, what was that, 96, 97? It was 25 years ago. I'm sure, mental health and psychological evaluations have progressed a lot since then.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they didn't do their due diligence letting him fight in that. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was in Atlantic City, too, right? That was in New Jersey?
I want to say so. If Santiago was in chat, he could tell us.
But it wasn't in Alabama. Like, it wasn't just a commission who doesn't get fights, who was just, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Who do you think wins? I mean, you sort of, I think, showed us your hand when I think you said something about Joseph Diaz.
No, I'm kind of 50-50 up on it. I guess, gun in my head, I had to pick. I would take Ryan Garcia. But he's going to be pushed in a different way than he was pushed against Luke Campbell, for sure. Campbell.
I agree with you. When Joseph Diaz and Devin Haney were sort of talking about fighting, which way were you leaning with that matchup?
Jojo Diaz.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think that Haney's got the explosive power. Like, I think eventually Jojo Diaz would break Haney down. Like, kind of like he did Fortuna. Like, he's going to get on the inside. He's going to rough you up. He's going to land on you. He's going to make life miserable for you. He's going to slow you down. And I haven't seen anything from Haney that tells me that he's going to be able to respond at that level in a scrap with a guy like Jojo Diaz. Jojo Diaz, like, he's just a pressure fighter. Like, he's just a mullet. He was an Olympic boxer. He made the Olympic team. The guy's got all types of skills. He's good.
Oh, yeah. I think people really underrate his inside work, to be honest.
He does a lot of things really well.
He just doesn't have, like, the power of, let's say, like, an Estrada or a Gonzalez or a Figueroa, right? Obviously, like, these are all pressure fighters to varying degrees. Like, they're not all the same pressure fighters. But, like, Joseph Diaz is a really good pressure fighter. He doesn't have that real pop like they do.
Right.
He's going to just wear you down through 12 rounds. Like, he really is. He's a 12-round fighter for sure. I'm probably like 55-45 on this, leaning Ryan Garcia. I think
Ryan's kind of where I am too.
I think he's just going to catch him with something. I think he's going to be the longer ranger fighter, and he's going to probably be fighting to that betterment,
Over time, when you constantly have to get in on the more explosive, bigger hitter, eventually you could get hit. And Ryan Garcia's got, electric stuff, So I think you're right. I think, it's a fun fight, but I would bet at some point that Garcia gets him out.
My only concern is that Ryan Garcia did get knocked down by Luke Campbell, who's not the heaviest hitter. So I think Joseph Diaz has more power than
Campbell. Yeah, I'm not saying Diaz. No. I'm not saying Diaz is Julian Jackson, but he ain't Luke Campbell either.
So I definitely see Ryan Garcia getting hurt in the fight.
Oh, for sure. It's a great fight. Yeah. Diaz could win if he can, kind of withstand the power. If his chin is, and he limits the amount of big shots he gets hit with, he can win enough rounds and punish him. Like, he can win this fight. If I had to, I would bet against it. Like, if I had to place a bet on it, I would bet against it. But Diaz has a path to victory in this fight, for sure.
Joseph Diaz is definitely that guy that can beat all these sort of young guys in the division, except for Tifam Lopez, and be the dark horse and probably just lose to Tio or Lomachenko, right? Like, I could see Joseph Diaz beating Richard Comey. I could see him beating, like we said, Devin Haney, of course, Ryan Garcia. I mean, what other names are we going to talk about? I probably pick Tank in that fight. So probably Tank is probably in that group with Loma and Tifam Lopez at this point in time.
I would take Tank because I have to, but I'm telling you right now, Jojo Diaz is really skilled on the inside. The fight's going to take place on the inside, right? Tank loses it on the outside. If Tank can bring it on the inside, Jojo Diaz is so good on the inside. He's not going to sit there and get blasted with shots like Barros, because Barros doesn't want to be fighting in there. Jojo Diaz is good and can make you miss in there, and he can rough you up and hit you with big shots too. Now, he doesn't have the power, so I guess, like, if the fight's on the inside, Davis is eventually going to get him out. But Diaz is really good on the inside. He can win the fight on the inside. Like, he could. He's really good on the inside.
Jay in the chat. First 10 horror fight enough watching him getting his ass busted. So much for you, your favorite up and comer, Gary. Gary, it's okay. When Rob's Dalton Smith gets his ass beat up soon, it'll look worse than 10 horror for sure.
But they don't put him in with guys like this. They don't put Dalton Smith in with guys like
William Zepeda.
Yeah.
Yeah, even Jay's agreeing. Like, Zepeda's power is something else. Like, Zepeda really impressed me in that fight. Like, I really want to see him against a top level guy next.
You don't see pressure fighters too often with that kind of power. Like, it's usually one or the other. Usually you throw a punch of, a barrage of punches and there's not much on them. Or you're more selective with your shots and they're more powerful. But he had both, which is a scary combination. Like, I want to see Zepeda against a guy with more power in that division. Like, I think Ryan Garcia would be a great fight. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I think it doesn't happen next, obviously, because the second Ryan beats JoJo, like, they're going to try to fast track him to Teofimo Lopez.
I would love that fight, JoJo and Zepeda, but they're not going to make that because they want bigger things for JoJo.
Yeah. They're probably going to have to work across the street, maybe, because, like, who else does Golden Boy have at 135? We're going to do Fortuna versus Zepeda? No. I don't want to see
that. It's fine. But I want to see a bigger test than that.
I want to see Richard Comey versus Zepeda. Like, just pure power. One's like a really smooth inside fighter. One is a really powerful mid-range fighter.
I would take Zepeda in that.
Agreed, but that's the fight I would.
That would be a great fight. I won't get made because boxing sucks, but that would be a great fight.
Because boxing sucks. Anyways, any other thoughts on Ryan Garcia, Joseph Diaz?
No.
Moving on. Gary, fights this last weekend.
There was only one, right?
Yes, I only saw the main event, so I can't speak to the undercard. So if you have any,
I always saw the main event too because the undercard was not intriguing to me at all.
No, it really wasn't.
This was not a good card. I was upset that it wasn't on ESPN Plus, but this was not a good card. Like, the main events it ended up being a good fight, but it's a snooze fest. So if you're gonna give me a snooze fest of a main event, even though the names are okay, give me an action-packed undercard. Give me a good undercard. You know?
We didn't watch it. Could have been action-packed, Gary.
It didn't. I watch everything. Like the Showbox card on Thursday or Friday was great. That was a great card.
I didn't see it either. How was it?
It's good. This guy Isaiah Steen, he's from Cleveland. He trains with Conwell. He's signed by Lou DiBella. There's something to that guy. Like, there's something to him. Like, he's just like does everything he's supposed to do. Right, like, there's nothing really exceptional about him. It's like, you can see why he went underneath the radar, but it's like when you bring in a new hiree as a stockbroker and you tell him what to say on the phone, and he just repeats everything you tell him to say and doesn't use his own brain at all. Just do what I'm telling you to do; it'll work. Like, let's not reinvent the wheel here. And then he doesn't. He has like that's what Steen does, right? He does. He's not a big hitter. He stays off the ropes. He uses his size. He ties you up on the inside, right? Like, everything he does. He's like a really high IQ guy. Just do what you're told. Just fight the game plan. Don't trade. Don't get over aggressive. Just sit back. Make him come to you. Circle, circle, circle. Stay off the rope, and keep the jab going, and you'll win rounds. And, like, lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. That guy's something to keep an eye on. Like, he really is.
For those that are just wondering why I have not been watching as many fights lately, I apologize. I'm doing a lot of promo work for a card September 11th in Simi Valley. So I've just been busy on Fridays and Saturdays. We have meetings every Saturdays. I do apologize.
And who is this guy Boca Chica for? Boca Chica got a draw, right? And Raul Marquez is doing the commentary. He kept saying that Boca Chica lost, and he had to correct himself. I'm sorry. Somehow, that was one of the worst decisions I ever saw. I had an 8-2. Like, I mean, I know they like this guy Boca Chica. But he got a draw in his last fight, and then he got outclassed in this fight. They gave him a draw again. That guy might not be it. I would like him too. His name is Boca Chica. That's a pretty cool name.
Yuda in the chat saying Joyce's mask was so bad it made me laugh for a few minutes. I mean, if you're going to go like with an X-Men costume, get a good one. Joe Joyce.
I'm old school. I don't like the costumes. I like Mike Tyson. Just run out to the ring in a robe or a towel. Like, I don't need all this extra stuff. I really don't. It doesn't move the needle. But ring walks, being carried to the ring like you're some kind of royalty or in some kind of costume, it doesn't do anything for me. Just get to the ring and fight.
I think there's a very select few that can do it.
But like the Wilder Fury one that we had last year, everyone was like, it doesn't do anything for me. Like, okay, great. Like, can we get in the ring and fight now? Like,
plus, obviously, it really affected the fight. It was 50 pounds. That's suit.
It was when Kevin Kelly fought Hamed's first fight in the U.S. at the Garden. Yeah, they had a plan. They were not going to engage with them. And Hamed's ring walk was like 20 minutes long. And Kevin Kelly just pissed him off. And the whole time they're building his anger. And he knocked him down in the first round and just went after him. And it's like, because that ring walk was so extravagant, it pissed Kelly off. And Kelly went in and abandoned his game plan and tried to knock him out. And it backfired. It was a great fight. Each guy got knocked down like 3 times in 3 rounds. Yep. But it's like, that was exactly what we tried not to do, Kevin Kelly. That was exactly what we told you not to do.
Joe Joyce and Carlos Takam ended in the 6th round. Joe Joyce won via TKO. It was an all right fight. I mean, Joe Joyce, I think he's a decent offensive fighter, but defensively, he just is atrocious. Offensively, he's quite gifted with his fundamentals, his power. But man, again, he still lacks, I think, a certain amount of speed. And his defense,
it's bad. It's slow watching him, man. It's just, like, even when he was trying to finish him, like, all of his shots look so like laboring, like he's trying so hard, and it's like, let your hands go. He's like, I am, but that's as fast as they go. Like,
I thought Takam was doing a lot of good work in the fight, man. Like, Takam is definitely a great barometer fight for like the top.
I always thought Takam was. I know his record's no longer shiny. He's got a lot of losses now, but like Takam is a good fighter. Like, I've always thought he was a good fighter. He's not going to be a world champion, but he's a good heavyweight.
I know Gary's a little bit heated about the stoppage. My thoughts about the stoppage before Gary has a rant about it. I did think it was an early stoppage. It wasn't completely egregious, but it was definitely a combination or 2, maybe 3 too early. I did feel like Takam just wasn't recovering. He was getting hit with a lot of shots. Today's age, I'm way more in favor of early stoppages, than late stoppages. I rather the stoppage. We argue about it being early than it being late. Late stoppages always worry me nowadays in the sport after people like Max and Dadashev and such. So, early stoppage, I would have let it continue for a little bit longer. Not the worst thing in the world. Gary, though, I think may call it the worst stoppage of the year.
No, I was just going back. I was just banting with Rob. I was just doing bant. I don't think it was that. Look, it depends. I want to talk to the ref here. Why did you stop the fight? Did you stop the fight because you thought he was in trouble? Because he wasn't. Did you stop the fight because he was eating too many big shots? Because he wasn't. Did you stop the fight because he wasn't firing back at all? Right? Because this is a fight, and you have to throw your hands back. Right? Then I'm okay with it. And the refs aren't mic'd up in the UK. If the ref is in there saying, fight back, let your hands go, or I'm going to stop it, and he's still not throwing his hands, stop the fight. Like, he wasn't eating a whole ton of shots. He wasn't eating big shot after big shot. Like this, when Holyfield fought Burt Cooper. Burt Cooper was in the middle of the ring and ate about 15 power shots in a row. And he seemed completely unfazed. But the ref had to stop it because you just ate 15 power shots in a row. That's not really what happened here, right? Like, he didn't eat he ate a couple shots, but it wasn't like one after another. And
there was a solid 45 seconds of him just eating shots.
Was he really eating them?
Well, like, not all of them landed, but a lot of them did. Like, there's a lot of right hands, right straights that landed. Like that. That's the reality. And he hurt him early. He hurt him like the second the round started.
It was early.
He hit him with like a 1-2-1, and he stunned him. And I think it was stopped. I forget exactly what. At 49 seconds left in the round. So like, he ate a lot of shots till that fight was actually stopped.
He didn't throw his hands back, and that's why I'm okay with the stoppage, because he didn't fire back. Right? Like, it's a fight, man. If you're not gonna fight back, I have to stop the fight because it's no longer a fight.
Yeah. What do you think is next for Joe Joyce?
Keep him away from good heavyweights. You guys see?
Is he the next Kubrat Pulev?
No, he's better than Pulev. Did you guys see Dubois' little sister fight in the Olympics?
No, I did not.
She's fleet-footed. She's nothing like Dubois. She's long and rangy. Like, she's nothing. I guess Dubois is long. He's just, but it's like she's thin and like she looks like a swimmer or a track star, right? Like she's rangy. She's real quick on her feet. She pivots really nice. She fights absolutely nothing like Big Brother. She's good though. She's fighting Rashida Ellis' sister, Rashida Ellis, in the Olympics.
Little fun fact, small world there, right, in boxing.
But she's good. She's gonna win. She's good.
Definitely check out the Olympics. I haven't been watching it, unfortunately, just because of work. But
Caroline, I think her name is Caroline Dubois. I think is her name.
And there was a couple other fighters you mentioned, I think, in the group chat, right, Gary? There was a fighter from Cameroon that you said was really good.
Yeah, in the first day, Aisi. This is because usually a lot of times in the first round you see just distinct levels, right? Like one guy's clearly better than the other. This is the deepest I've seen the talent pool that I can remember in a long time. Like, there's so many good fighters in this round. The guy Duke Reagan fought in the first round was not one of them. I don't know how he wasn't disqualified. He threw Reagan to the ground like 5 times in the last round. Like, whatever.
Like, what if you injured him, right? Like, that's like the part of the thought process.
And he kept doing it. Like, that's not fighting. He hit him with 2 right hands, and I think that he thought he won the round, so he was just going to throw him down the rest of the round. And if you don't disqualify him, if you don't deduct points from him, I guess he wins the round because all you did was hit him twice and throw him down, so I guess you give him the round. Mm-hmm. But, like, you can't. It was one after he'd get up, he'd tie him up, and he'd throw him down again. It's like, this can't. We got to stop this. This is not boxing, right? Like, but no, there's been a lot of good fighters. The Russian light heavyweight, Irman, and his last name starts with a K. I don't know how that guy's going to do in the amateurs because everything is just loaded up on, right? But he's good. Like, it's fairly short and straight, but he doesn't jam at all. He just loads up on everything. Like, if he doesn't buckle someone and hurt them, like, he can get out boxed as an amateur. But that guy's going to be something to watch as a pro. Especially in amateurs, 3 rounds, just avoid his power for 3 rounds. Just jab and move, jab and move, jab and move. If he doesn't buckle you with a couple of shots he lands, you should be able to beat him. I don't think he's going to medal, but that guy's fun to watch.
Move on to the card this weekend, which is a decent UK card over on DAZN. Conor Benn versus Adrian Granados. Xu Shan versus Lee Wood. Tommy McCarthy versus Chris Billum-Smith. Rob's boy, Anthony Fowler versus Rico Mueller. Ivani Yirdom, your boy, Gary.
It's not my
boy. Versus Jack Cullen. And your boy again, Campbell Hatton versus Jacob Lauskowitz. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. And Sandy Ryan, who's making a debut, versus Christy Bavington, which sounds like the most British name I can ever think of. Gary, your thoughts on this quality, sort of, like next-gen boxing card?
So the main event's Lee Wood versus Sansu?
No, the main event's Conor Benn versus Adrian Granados.
Oh, that's right. The
co-main event's probably Shushan.
Yeah. No, it's good. This is a good card. This is, at least the main event, co-main event. Fowler's a good fighter, and I'm not saying this to be insulting. He's an excellent amateur fighter. He was an Olympian, right, Fowler?
Yes.
Who's going to be a decent pro who's not going to be a world champion. Right? He's a decent pro. He's got really good skills, and he's a good fighter to watch. Yildirim coming back this quickly off the destruction. Kudos to him, though. Good. Get right back on that horse. I'm really interested in Nigel Benn Jr. I think he's really good. Now, it's going to be tough winning a world title at 47. Real tough, especially coming up. You got Jesus Ramos, and of course you have Boots and Virgil. It's going to be tough to win a belt at 47. But boy, Nigel Benn Jr. is good. He's good. Granados is a good test. You know, Granados is probably a little bit shot at this point, but he's still a pro. He's still a veteran. He's still giving a lot of good fighters a lot of trouble.
Gary,
so I'm interested.
Gary, is there a real Nigel Benn Jr.?
No.
Oh,
no.
Are we sure? I feel like there could be, right?
If he doesn't box. I mean, does he have another son he calls Junior? I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up now. I'll look it up now. Okay, you keep going.
I was talking about that a while ago. I'm calling him Nigel Benn Jr.
What is a real Nigel Benn Jr.?
That doesn't count.
I like how the first thing that pops up is Connor Benn. His Wikipedia. Oh, because his middle name is Nigel.
There you go.
There we go, guys. Anyways, back to you, Gary. Sorry, I apologize for interrupting you.
Yeah, no, I think this is a good test. I want to see how Nigel Benn deals with a guy like Granados. He's a rough guy, rough and tumble guy. Does Nigel Benn just sit outside and outclass him and outspeed him because he could, or does he get into a tussle with him? And if he does get into a scrap with him, how does he do? How does he handle it? You know what I'm saying? Because if it gets on the inside, Granados is going to use some roughhouse tactics. He's going to be some forearms, some low blows. It's going to get ugly in there. And how does Ben should pass this test, right?
Yeah,
it should, but I'd like to see how he passes it.
Yeah, he's definitely like right below all those top prospects, but he's not that far below them. And I think in terms of quality, I think he's a really talented prospect, and he developed into that, right?
Yeah.
Jay Prodigy saying Nigel Benn. Am I missing an inside joke? Yeah, because Gary calls Connor Benn Nigel Benn Jr. because he just fights like Nigel Benn and he just wants to do that. And Connor Benn's middle name is Nigel. So I mean, like, you can technically, if you want to be like he's in trouble, say Connor Nigel Benn, right? You can do that. Like his parent. But digressing, I think Connor Benn should absolutely pass this. I think he should probably knock out Granados late, maybe 8 to 10. I think Granados is definitely not that great at 147. I think there's a quality 140 pounder, and at 147 he's just outgunned. He's just out muscled. I think that he's probably gonna knock out Granados and head to a big fight next. In terms of name value, it might not be a guy that's
he's gonna fight Khan next. Is that where we're going?
Let me get there, man. You think Khan or Brook, right? It's gonna be one of them.
I'd rather Brook. He's got more left in the tank. Brook won rounds with Crawford, and then Crawford just knocked him out. Like, I could still see there's something left with Brook,
but not really.
Khan's totally shot. Like, Khan hasn't had a good win since 2015. Why do we keep doing this? And that was against Algieri, who was really a 140 pounder.
And he didn't really win that fight.
And there's that. Like, he didn't really shine in that fight against the guy who's a 140 pounder, which Matt. I thought Khan won the fight. It wasn't. It was close. It was a good fight. A lot of people thought Algieri won.
Here's the deal, Gary. As I said in the last show, I think I just want to see Amir Khan get knocked out. It's always hilarious. Okay, so if he wants to fight Connor Benn, Amir Khan, man, go for it. Go for it, because it would be a big fight for Connor Benn. Like, it would definitely improve his profile in the UK. So like I don't see like there's like huge drawbacks for other than Amir Khan's clearly going to get his ass knocked out. Like, okay, like that would happen if Amir Khan fought anyone at the top at this point in time, but he has name value still. So let him fight these UK guys on the come up. If what's his name? The other UK prospect that sucks now. That lost to Avanesian.
Oh, pretty boy, Josh Kelly.
Like if he had beat Avanesian, he should be lined up for a Connor Brook, right?
That's
like
a good fight. Nigel Benn Jr. versus Avanesian. I like that fight. That's too much of a step up?
No, it's just a bland fight. Like if I'm Connor Benn, like why would I fight that guy? He has nothing for me.
He doesn't, but it's a step up. It's a guy with good wins.
Is it though? I think Granados is already past that level.
You think Granados? I mean, Granados is shot though, right? Like even Avanesian has proven he's not shot.
Is he? Did he prove that though?
Kelly was the favorite, was he not?
Yes and no.
He was the betting favorite. He wasn't the
fans and the media were not behind Josh Kelly at that fight. It was still an upset. Don't get me wrong, but Avanesian's not a guy that I really care about to see fight any of these top guys or the top prospects. It doesn't. No, like I'd rather Conor Benn fight maybe another like PBC affiliated fighter like a Jamal James.
I would too, but that doesn't have any intrigue in the UK. Amir Khan does.
There we go. Exactly. So like that's why that fight's gonna happen. It's gonna make a lot of money for Conor Benn, and he's gonna get new fans because of it. Like that's a reality. Like I see it as like a ends justify the means issue when it comes to that matchup for Conor Benn after he whoops up Granados. Moving on from that, any other thoughts on the undercard? Shushan versus Lee Wood, which is a quality fight. I think Shushan should win that. He's just, I think, a better tier. You know, I think he's levels above Lee Wood in my opinion. Chris Billen-Smith and Tommy McCarthy. I think I'm gonna pick Chris Billen-Smith on that one. He's low-key been impressing me as a prospect. Anthony Fowler should win. I might pick Jack Cullen against Ivana Yildirim. I'll be honest. Jack Cullen's a scrapper. You know, he might surprise people there, even though Yildirim is a little bit more battle test at this point, as arguably. Who's calling me right now?
Yeah.
There we go. Stop that. Apologies. And Campbell Hatton should win as well.
Should. You got to match him real easy because he's not good. Lee Wood fought Jazz Dickens, fairly even, a very close fight. And Jazz Dickens is the pound for pound best in the sport, as we well know. So, I mean, maybe Lee Wood's better than we thought. Maybe I'm going to pick Sansu too, but maybe Lee Wood's better than we're giving him credit for. He was right there with Jazz Dickens. I think I had him losing 6-4 or something like that. Like, it was a close fight. And Jazz Dickens is the truth.
Hold on, Gary. Hold on. I need to pull this up for a second for everyone to see. Sorry. Because anytime Gary mentions Jazz Dickens, I have to just bring this up, okay? It's going to be what it is. Just saying, man. I'm just saying.
You can put Hector Tanahara there now.
I know.
Yeah.
I was mentioning to my girlfriend that I need to pick a new one. The issue is, though, Gary, like, who do I take off? Like, I don't want to take off Josh Franco's
eyes. Classic.
And, like, Barrios and Juarez are way too important for you to take off.
Yeah.
Like, I might have to like put like a couple of them on top of each other. You know, like it might.
You can put Barrios and Juarez together because they train together, and then put Tanahara in the next door.
Yeah.
It's been a rough little run there for my guys.
Yeah, it's been rough, Gary. It's been rough, man. But anyways, Gary, any other thoughts before we head over?
No, that was a pretty quick show. My memory doesn't work at all anymore. No, I think we're good.
100%.
What?
What did you do, Gary?
No. You didn't hear that?
No.
Okay, then no problem. Don't worry about it.
Quickly, before you rattle off some stuff. 9/11 this year. Okay, September 11th, Simi Valley, Red Box and Promotions will have an event. Hit me up if you want tickets. I'll be doing all the promo work. Main event would be Jesse Martinez facing the dreaded TBA. Jesse Martinez is a 15-0 prospect out in LA. Really good guy. Definitely check him out. And we have a ton of other guys on the card. A couple of guys debuting that I think are going to be quality prospects. Our matchmaker and fighter liaison have got a lot of quality guys in the area. So stay tuned for promo work coming out for the event as I've got hired for that. Gary, final thoughts before we head over.
please subscribe to my channel, Texas Boxing Scene. There's a local fight this week that I'm going to do it in Dallas, and there's a bunch of action coming up. I'm going to be adding a lot of content to that in the upcoming weeks. So please subscribe to Texas Boxing Scene on YouTube. All proceeds go to Autism Research and Recovery. Please find me on all forms of social media and follow me on all forms at 3D Boxing Blog. It is July 27th. Ivan Calderon is still not in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Let's make that change. Texas is still not a country. Let's make that change too. Let's make Texas a country again. From Texas to the world, thank you and God bless.
And remember, ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Patreon.com/Trending Now Network. And follow me at Matt Hunter MCR on all social media platforms. And Gary at 3D Boxing Blog. All links below in the description as well if you need to find any of that. And remember, at all times, fuck the police and free Palestine. Peace.